thank you so much for having me here as a speaker. I attended FIRST last year, and I felt like a little bit of an outsider at the start, but actually I heard then so much of what we were starting to think about and grapple with at the Wikimedia Foundation in the conversations you were having then. So I'm now a director in the Community Growth Department, where as well as leading the teams focused on content partnerships, I'm also leading teams that work on campaign organizing to improve the quality, diversity, and impact of content contributions to Wikipedia and our other projects. Okay, so I'm going to start sort of by justifying my presence at this event. So I'm going to reintroduce you to Wikipedia, a project most of you probably know and probably use, but might not fully understand the workings of. So who here is an occasional reader of Wikipedia? And who here is an occasional editor or contributor to Wikipedia? Great. I'll then explain how we work with publishers, including many of the people in the room here today. And finally, I'll share a bit about how we're responding to generative AI. And not all of those responses will be adoption or integration. There are other ways we're kind of responding to the sort of mainstreaming of AI. So the Wikipedia model. So yes, Wikipedia is one of the most widely used sources of information on the internet. There are more than 62 million articles in over 300 languages. Every month, people around the world view Wikipedia more than 15 billion times and read its articles in, as I said, more than 300 languages. Students and researchers often refer to Wikipedia as a starting point. It shouldn't be the end point, and also they use it for fact-checking. They discover new academic books, articles, and journals from publishers through the citations that are used on Wikipedia. All of the information that you get on Wikipedia is curated by a global community of volunteer editors. And these editors compile and share knowledge on notable subjects from reliable sources, the source materials that you are involved in publishing. So books, newspaper articles, and peer-reviewed journals, in accordance with our editorial policies, which are also developed by our community, in order to ensure that the knowledge that we present remains fact-based. We call this the Wikipedia model. And I just want to share a brief video that kind of in 1 minute tries to explain this model.
A lot can happen in a Wikiminute, like the 60 seconds of everything that happens on Wikimedia projects. Or even the time it takes to answer, how does Wikipedia work? Wikipedia is a free encyclopedia everyone can edit. It exists within the vision of a world in which every single person can freely share the sum of all human knowledge. Every month, nearly 300,000 volunteers, people like you, come together from all around the world to write, edit, update, debate, and fact-check the content that makes that vision come true. These collaborators, contributors, and creators curate and compile information that's accurate, neutral, and well-sourced, and free for anyone to access and use. Which is probably why Wikipedia is one of the first places people go when trying to learn virtually anything. The articles they edit are read more than 16 billion times a month. Yep, billion with a B. And the knowledge they create often becomes the source of information that powers some of the world's main search engines and virtual voice assistants. And that's how Wikipedia works, in only a minute.
Thank you. So one of the main things I want you to take away from what I'm saying today is that it's really the policies and community discussions underpinning our articles that is our kind of secret sauce. It's really the tangled threads beneath the surface that are the most beautiful part of the project. And I think this is shown really well in Cornelia Parker's embroidered representation of the Wikipedia article for Magna Carta. She includes everything, including the citations at the bottom of the page. And then, you see the threads, which I see as like the talk pages and the work that happens underneath to produce knowledge, this kind of universally available knowledge. One of the key ideas of our project is that everything should be written from a neutral point of view. Now, no information is neutral. Coming from the museum sector, we've kind of talked about this a lot. But what that means in practice is that we strive for articles that adopt an impartial tone. Articles should document and explain major points of view, giving due weight for their prominence. And all articles must strive for verifiable accuracy with citations that are based on multiple reliable sources, especially if the topic is controversial or is about a living person. Crucially, Wikipedia articles should not include original research or opinion. And so what that means is that citation is needed. Statements in articles that aren't sourced will be tagged by other editors, and sometimes bots, with a template that simply says, citation needed. This fact can't kind of stand on its own. And this has become a catchphrase in our movement and a call to action for a twice-annual campaign that we run with libraries and librarians, which is, can you add these citations that are missing from the project? So Wikipedia needs sources. Those sources should be both reliable and verifiable. And our editors, our volunteer editors, who might not be part of a higher education institution or might not be in a location that has good public libraries, need access to those high-quality sources to do their work. And as you know, while disinformation and AI slop spreads pretty freely on the internet these days, many of the most reliable sources of knowledge can only be accessed through a paid subscription, obviously, because people need business models to invest and produce that information. But we have a program called the Wikipedia Library where we've developed partnerships with more than 100 of the world's top subscription-only databases. And this library that we've produced through partnerships with organizations like yours give Wikipedia's most active editors access to knowledge resources in more than 30 languages. And many of the world's preeminent publishers share their materials with us, and we're very thankful for their partnership. But only the most dedicated Wikipedia volunteers can access the Wikipedia library. We don't make it available to all 300,000 editors. To gain access, volunteers are required to have made more than 500 edits on Wikipedia over a minimum 6-month period. And whenever an editor requests content from the Wikipedia library, we do a real-time check to make sure that they're still an active editor and they meet other requirements to access these resources. But we think that Wikipedia and publishers are better together. Wikipedia editors use the diverse, multilingual, and reliable sources to add trustworthy knowledge to the site. Importantly, the editors obviously add links to their sources, which brings more visibility to partners' quality research materials that they've made available. This knowledge benefits readers by offering trustworthy information via the world's largest online knowledge source. It also benefits the partners who partner with the Wikipedia library in that they increase the visibility of their resources and refer readers who are looking for more information. And just to give 2 examples, in 2023, the Wikipedia library was used to add more than 165,000 citations, new citations to Wikipedia. And one of our partners, newspapers.com, went from having almost 0 citations on Wikipedia to having more than 400,000 citations on Wikipedia. So it can do a lot for the visibility of those resources. So that's why I'm here. That's how we sort of engage with publishers up till now. But the real thing I want to share with you is kind of how we're thinking about AI, because I think we have many shared opportunities and challenges in terms of how we engage with these new technologies. So for us, we consider ourselves to be a human-led, tech-enabled movement. So we're primarily about the people, the volunteers, more than the sort of enabling platform. And so what that means when we think about AI is we've been in constant conversation with our movement over the last couple of years in particular, thinking through the implications of AI. Our volunteer editors are still discussing and developing editorial policies. Change doesn't happen quickly because it happens through debate, discussion, kind of reaching consensus. But I think what we've all agreed on together is that our approach to AI should be guided by our mission and values. And so our uses of AI will be human-led. We will always look for solutions that are multilingual and equitable, 300 languages for Wikipedia. And we will also strive for solutions that are open. So in terms of human-led, we're not looking to optimize volunteer editors out of the picture. Like, we always imagine that human participation will be centered, and anything we do with AI is just enabling our volunteers to be more productive and find more joy in the work that they're doing. So when we develop models, machine learning or AI models, that will always be in close consultation with our diverse global contributor community. We will keep humans in the loop as decision makers and always credit their contributions. We also want to make sure that anything we're producing is as multilingual and equitable as possible. So we build in checks and balances to avoid perpetuating biases, to make sure we're not widening the knowledge gaps that we know already exist on our projects and the internet at large. We want to make sure we're not erasing any histories or perspectives or contributing to human rights harms. And as I said, we will prioritize open source, transparent, and verifiable solutions. So we always want our volunteer contributors to understand the source of, to verify, and to be able to correct model outputs. So we publish model cards for any machine learning or models that we develop, and we make tools configurable. So if we make an AI or machine learning enabled tool available to our community, we will often give them the ability to configure it, and actually each language version of the project decides whether or not they want to enable it. And I really enjoyed the research panel earlier where I felt like lots of these things were being discussed, and I felt that there was some real shared thinking there. Beyond our movement, we've also been trying to develop an AI research agenda, at least, with colleagues from research institutions and publishing, and advocating for something that we've kind of called the truth infrastructure of the web. So journalism, academic research, education, and publishing. And last year, there was actually a retreat at Bellagio where we had some representatives from publishers who were here, where we were really trying to think through what are our collective interests and challenges in this space, and what can we do together. And I think we really wanted to think about how the knowledge commons communities can partner with institutions that create knowledge in different ways for shared goals. Like our success, the success of our open knowledge platform completely depends on your success and your ability to keep supporting great research and making that available in different ways to the public. The more widespread, so sort of starting to think now about how we've been responding to the rise of AI and the increased adoption and use, it isn't only about us kind of adopting or integrating AI solutions. I think all of the conversations we've had over the last couple of years with communities and partners has really clarified and sharpened our own thinking about our unique human-led model and the collaborative sort of endeavor that underpins everything we do. And this was expressed most recently in a brand campaign, which had the sort of strapline "Knowledge is Human," where we really wanted to go out and show the collaborative editing process behind articles. So we did that by producing some animations that kind of show the real editing process behind articles that are on English Wikipedia right now. But we actually put it on moving billboards in major cities around the US. So in LA, we replayed the edits that made the Meet Cute article. So really showing the versions and how that knowledge got sort of developed over time in one particular sort of resonant example for that location. And in New York City, we showed the development of an article about the sort of rat crisis they had shortly, sort of during or shortly after COVID. So finding stories that were resonant, that would attract attention, but really using those to try and build that understanding of the Wikipedia model. Like, what is it that makes the knowledge on Wikipedia relatively sort of trustworthy? But we have also been experimenting with different sort of AI tools and integrations to see how we can, while still respecting that human-led model, increase our volunteers' capacities. I mentioned earlier that a lot of editorial policy for AI is still in development and lots of decisions are still to be made, particularly for Wikipedia in terms of what content are we allowing in, what is acceptable sort of writing practice for our encyclopedia. But some decisions have been made. So, for example, our media repository, Wikimedia Commons, which has more than 100 million open access images and other media files, has a guideline now for AI-generated media. So our community's decided that for now, synthetic media can be contributed to Wikimedia Commons, but when giving attribution for a media file that's been created by a prompt-based system, the best practice is to give the name of the specific AI engine used, followed by the name of the person who created the prompt. That was the first version of the policy, and then a little bit later, they also decided that whenever you upload synthetic media that was generated by a prompt-based system, you should also document exactly the prompt that you used. And so that was policy that was kind of developed on talk pages over a pretty long period of time. But once we saw that our community had reached that consensus and had issued a guideline, we then updated the sort of upload wizard or contribution form on Commons to make it really easy to capture that information and to prompt people to think about it, acknowledge whether it was sort of created using AI, and provide all of that information. So that will just make that material easier to identify, and it also means reusers of that material have a good understanding of how it was produced. So that's some policy development that's already happened that we are kind of supporting through our editing interfaces. Another really important direction for our product teams, which builds on work they've been doing for a long time with machine learning and bots and other things, is to develop models and features that reinforce that Wikipedia model I was talking about earlier. So we have these key pillars, expectations for how people should create content on our projects, and how can we sort of support that through models and also features. So for example, this is a machine learning model that was developed recently, which identifies reference need, so missing references, citations that are needed within a particular article, but also identifies reference risk within articles. So our editors have identified sources that are generally thought to be perennial quality sources that people can use. They have also identified sources that don't meet our guidelines and shouldn't really be used. And we also have data about references that have been rejected or reverted. So we have some sense of what is it likely to be a good reference and what is maybe a more risky reference. So we've generated a model for that can be sort of included in features. And obviously for this, there is a good model card that explains exactly how this works. The code is available. People can look at the data and really understand for themselves what is going on there. We need to think about equity when we develop something like this, because obviously there are some languages and places in the world where there are more readily available digital sources that can be cited. So we need to make sure when we develop something of this that we're not sort of introducing more inequity as well. So it's never straightforward. There's always a lot kind of in the balance and to be thought through with these kinds of features. But models like this and other models that we're developing can be used by a new edit check feature, which one of our product teams that deals particularly with the editing interface has been working on. So edit check basically makes small contextual nudges in the editing interface that guide newcomers to make constructive edits that won't need to be reverted by an admin or moderator on the project. So a reference check is already in place. So if you add a statement and you haven't added a citation, you get a dialogue that's kind of, are you now going to add a citation? And if they say no, they have to explain why, and that is kind of logged, and that information is then available to more experienced editors and moderators to understand why there isn't a citation there. This mock-up on screen is something that's kind of in development right now, which is a dialogue that could appear if an editor is copy-pasting text. So we know they've just literally copy-pasted a big paragraph or a couple of paragraphs into the editing interface. This could be because they're working in a document elsewhere and they're just copying it across. It could be that they're just copying it from the source directly. And so there again, there will be a nudge to kind of clarify why are you pasting this text, and a good reminder of our policies and practices and how they should edit. One sort of underlying idea in our movement is assume good faith. So with all of these interventions, we don't want to assume that someone is deliberately trying to do the wrong thing. Instead, we think that maybe they don't completely understand the Wikimedia model, they are new to the project, they're making their first edits, and if we can just give them these contextual clues or nudges in the process, they're more likely to understand the policies and make a constructive edit. And there are a lot of policies that, could take a very long time to engage with. So not everyone will have done all of that up front. So if we can just give them the information they need at the right time, we believe that we'll get much more constructive edits. And we've already seen evidence for that with the reference check. It's had a really significant impact on the addition of citations. There's also feasibility research underway. Our research team is looking at whether or not a large language model could detect what our editors call peacock behavior, which is kind of how it sounds. So it's basically to see if someone is using, making text contributions that don't use a neutral point of view, but instead are kind of making subjective proclamations about a subject's importance, or, using very effusive language to describe something. And so, this is at a very early stage, but we're trying to see if we could effectively detect those, and then maybe that's something that could be highlighted to moderators and other functionaries, so it's easier for them to kind of prioritize edits that might need to be looked at. So a lot of work here, which is really just about reinforcing our community's policies and processes through these nice contextual clues and nudges. Despite its kind of seeming popularity and ubiquity, and actually this was covered really well in the last talk, we haven't found that conversational AI is typically being used to get encyclopedic information. I think there was a point, maybe even last year when we all came together, I think there was a sense that things were going to change quite quickly, and that we all needed to respond quite quickly, and we definitely tracked that. And we did see at a certain point a lot of people were definitely experimenting with conversational AI as a way to kind of get information. But what we have found is that people still rely on navigating to and reading Wikipedia to get facts. In fact, one behavior we've really uncovered is people are very inclined to fact check the output of ChatGPT and other conversational AI interfaces. And they'll use resources like Wikipedia to do that first check, and then find other sources that they can navigate to really verify if what they've been told is true. And so we've not seen a reduction in our page views, and we still sort of attract the number of visitors that we did before. And I think a year ago, we weren't certain that that would be the case. But that said, we have spun up a dedicated product team at the Wikimedia Foundation called the Future Audiences Product Team that is really looking at trends like generative AI that could have an impact on our audience and engagement with our projects. And they're sort of exploring a number of different sort of potential futures and also potential strategies that would come from that. And one of those strategies that I personally find the most interesting is how can we maintain Wikipedia as the internet's conscience? So this idea that Wikipedia is a knowledge commons that is there to provide additional context, that organizes secondary sources and makes a good selection of them available around any particular topic, and gives just everyday people who might not have access to high-quality libraries or other sources of information the ability to kind of see, participate in, and even influence the consensus about what is known. So how do we continue to play that role, even if people aren't always coming to Wikipedia to get that information from us? If they're consuming information in another place, how are we still relevant? How are we still present? How do we still fulfill that role? And so there are a couple of experiments that we've tried so far to kind of test that idea. So one of them was a browser extension that was called Citation Needed. And if you installed it and you were browsing any other website and you saw a statement on that website, you could select that bit of text and basically ask, like, what does Wikipedia think about this? And you would get sort of a summary of what Wikipedia had to say about that particular statement. Did we seem to support it, contradict it? Was it unclear? And then obviously a prompt to visit the page, read it in depth, and visit all of the sort of supporting sources to understand it. So that was just like a very quick experiment. We didn't think a browser extension would be the thing that everyone would start using instead of Wikipedia, but it was a way to just test that idea, like, is this interesting? Is this potentially useful? More recently, there's a kind of next generation, next version of this, which is called Artifact, which has the same starting point but goes one step further. And it would be great if you could play a short sort of demo video of that. Thank you.
When you're just casually browsing the internet, you sometimes wonder, is this information already on Wikipedia? If that sounds like you, then we'd like you to give our extension, Artifact, a try. Wikipedia Artifact is an experimental browser extension from the Future Audiences team at the Wikimedia Foundation. And the goal of the extension is to let you submit information to Wikipedia from websites other than Wikipedia. So let me just give you a quick demonstration of how it works. Let's say you're just reading this article. It's about a blood test that the FDA approved for screening for colon cancer. So you're just reading and you're wondering, does Wikipedia already know that Guardant's health blood test called SHIELD has been approved? So we just highlight this text, click up here on the globe to open the extension, and click Check Statement. What the extension then does in the background is search Wikipedia, send the text of the articles to an AI, and the AI looks to see, is this information already in the article? And it says, this Wikipedia article confirms that the FDA approval of Guardant SHIELD colon cancer test. So Wikipedia already knows that this has happened, so I don't need to go to do anything to add it, it's already there. But that's not always going to be the case. Let's look at a different article. This is an article about how a bacterium supports healing of chronic diabetic wounds. And the article says that new research from this university shows that a certain bug can facilitate healing of hard-to-treat wounds among people with diabetes. So let's reopen the extension, check this statement, and see what it says. So again, it's passing it to Wikipedia, doing a search, passing it to an LLM, and it says, Wikipedia does not mention the specific claim about wound healing in diabetic patients. Great. So we click this button here, and it tells us we're going to add the following to the top page of the article for the bacteria in question. So we can click the article, and we can read it if we want to, and determine that, yes, indeed, this information is not present. So this article's information is not present in Wikipedia, and maybe we want to do something about that. And so currently the way this works is if we just hit add a fact here, so we can add an additional comment, say, I think we should mention this fact in the article, and then click add fact. It'll think for a second and then add a topic. So we click this button here, and we see that on the talk page for the Wikipedia article in question, it added this little section that says, here's the quote that we highlighted, here's the source that we got it from, here's the wiki text reference you can use as a snippet, and then it signs it with my additional comment that I made. And so you can see here that somebody else later could come by, look at the talk page and say, oh, I can add this fact to the article pretty easily, copy this reference and make the edit later. Obviously, this entire workflow, is still experimental. We're still figuring it out. We would really like your feedback on, is this something that would be useful to you? But yeah, if you could give our extension a try and give us some feedback, that would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And that's something, still in development. And really our approach, the approach of the Future Audiences product team is to make these small experiments, test them first and foremost with our community, maybe other people adopt them as well, and just get quick feedback about, does this seem promising? Is this something we should kind of take any further? So that's just a quick insight into how we've been thinking about what the opportunities and challenges might be, how it's kind of sharpened our thinking a little bit about what is special about our model and what we should preserve, and interestingly has given us ways to really reinforce that as well. So thank you very much. And I know drinks are soon, but maybe there's time for a question.
So, how sure are you that all your editors are human? And drinks, there we go, sorry.
Yeah, so we're sure that they're not actually, because we have a lot of bots, but they've been created by humans, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of reorganization of articles and other tasks that we know are done by bots, but there's always that kind of collaboration and human partnership.
Yeah, where I'm going with this is, we're facing the problem here of input data coming from AI generated material. So genuinely, knowledge is human, right?
Yeah.
You've got an issue there that I think you're going to have to deal with.
Yes, yeah. And in fact there was a study that came out a couple of weeks ago that we haven't validated yet for ourselves that suggested, it seems high, but they suggested that maybe up to 5% of content has been AI assisted to some extent. It's possible that is primarily translation, and we actually have some tools that kind of assist that. So that's something we need to validate, but it's definitely something we're looking at. And that is the area of editorial policy that is being most sort of actively worked through by our communities, and they haven't yet come to a position on exactly how much of that collaboration is acceptable and how it should be done. I was really interested to learn. It was actually your talk, wasn't it, where you were sharing some of those input issues around generated papers and hallucinated references as well. So they're all things, we're paying attention to. Yeah, same challenge, like so many shared challenges, I think, as well as opportunities.
Thanks for that talk. I found that really interesting. I'm interested if you've seen a rise of an impact of the zero-click internet, and if you're concerned about the separation from end users with your content.
Sorry, if we're concerned, disintermediation and
yes.
So it's complicated. So on the one hand, actually what we care about the most is universal access to information. And so one view is we actually don't care whether you get that on Wikipedia, the website, or whether you get it through a voice assistant, or whether you get it through search. However, our model does depend on us having volunteer editors, and we need, especially in some countries and languages, we need more editors. because those Wikipedias are less complete and, there's always more editing to do. And so one of our big questions is, if people aren't coming to Wikipedia, the website, or Wikipedia, the product, then how do they even know that editing is something they could do, and how do we convert? So from a reading point of view, we don't mind, but there is that challenge of, if everyone is reading it elsewhere, and especially if they don't know that what they're reading has come from Wikipedia, then how do we develop that next generation of editors and sustain our model going forward? And partly that's what the Future Audiences team is trying to explore with some of these sort of off Wikipedia experiments. Like, is this a way that we can be present and still, I think Artifact in particular, unlike Citation Needed, is kind of planting that seed, you could also edit, or you could contribute to an edit in this way, but definitely a big challenge that we're still figuring out. We haven't yet, though, as I said, seen that drop, but, we don't know what's coming, and so it's something we are definitely thinking about. Thank you again. Thanks so much.